Hey everybody, Ben here, beginning with an apology to Alex Nilto Sosa, who I came together with in that previous race, and I'm now determined to make amends in this one. We've qualified well in P3, and today I'm sporting another special livery, this time celebrating the iRacing YouTube creator Damien Cross. I really enjoy Damien's videos. He's super quick, and alongside race videos he also produces guides too. There's a link to his channel in the description. You should really go and check him out. Before you do though, there's the small matter of 11 laps of Barcelona here in the Super Formula, starting P3, the lights are on and we are underway, and we get a slightly sluggish start off the line, and that's going to put me under big pressure heading down into T1. Our third place qualifying position is going to become fourth place at least, as Sandero Campo comes across my front end. I've also got Peter Schmienter ahead of me now, and Jesus Morales around my outside as well as we negotiate the first couple of corners. It looks as if I've been able to hold Morales off, but I've dropped 2 positions down to P5. We got away okay, but I think I was sluggish to react to the lights and a little bit cautious on throttle. Other drivers much quicker off the line behind me, and in the end I got boxed in to the outside of the track, and that left a big gap on my inside, and I couldn't really defend safely into it. But we've got a long way to go in this race. I'm still in the top 5. I didn't pick up any damage, and there's lots of opportunities to come, I'm sure, to try and claw my way back up into those podium positions. Now it's a single split race, this one, so there's some really quick drivers here at the front end, particularly Corbett, who put it on pole position. He's a 4K rated driver. I'm not sure I've got any chance of matching his pace through the race, but beyond him I think I've got a pretty good match for everybody else. I was into the 21s in qualifying, and look up ahead, you can see Schmienter struggling with understeer. He's got his boost activated, he's understeered off into the gravel, and that will be 1 position back on lap 1. Then we're up into P4. Let's take a look back then at the start, and you can see my reaction times just a tenth or two maybe slower off the line, and then very cautious on the throttle. That's going to give the drivers just behind me an opportunity. You can see there that Campo closes me off on the outside. It means I've got to get on the brakes a bit earlier because I didn't want to run into his rear wing. That gives an opportunity down my inside. I'm able just to hold off Morales, but then at the end of the first lap, Schmenter's just going to carry too much speed into this final corner. The tyres just not up to temperature, and that allows me through. On to lap 2 then, and now my focus is all on trying to build a gap to Morales behind. I need to get him out of my slipstream so that he can't use his boost button to close in further. At the moment the gap is 0.7 seconds. Now that is just within slipstream, so this next lap is going to count enormously for the future of this race. I need to build a gap. Morales, he's a 2.8k rated driver, so he will have strong underlying speed. Thankfully, he wasn't able to close in down the start-finish straight that time around, and we've even got a couple more tenths on him through the opening couple of corners. I've really now got to focus and try and push this car as hard as I can, as we're on to lap 3 now. Things should be coming up to temperature. Can I just extend this gap sufficiently so that I can then break away and focus on trying to get back up into the podium positions? You can see in the rear view mirror Morales following closely behind here. He's just squeezed a little bit closer to us again, but thankfully not close enough to make a move down into this very technical middle section of the lap. You really don't want to be going side by side through some of these corners, but you can lose a bunch of time on exit as we hit the back straight here and get ready for the long hairpin at the end of it. On the 50-meter board you brake, you then try and just coax the car through the corner. You can easily lose the rear end there. Thankfully we didn't this time around. The gap 0.9 seconds now, up to a second in fact, so actually we've been able to just claw a couple of tenths this lap. That's exactly what I need at this stage of the race. We come through the final corner, and actually Morales is going to make a crucial mistake behind me there, and that gap is going to get bigger. Let's take a look at it on replay here as he comes through the final couple of corners. He's just going to push too hard, much in the same way we saw Schmienter on the first lap. He clips the inside curb, and that then compromises his speed, and then just a couple of laps later he'd make another mistake into T1. and he'd actually pick up a slowdown penalty as well, and that would allow me to extend the gap back to Morales to over 3 seconds, as I was starting to punch in some really competitive lap times into the 121s. However, it wasn't quick enough to start closing the gap to Campo up ahead in P3. We're lapping at an extremely similar pace, so that gap has been around 2 seconds all the way through the first half of the race, and despite setting personal bests lap after lap after lap, and currently I'm on for a 121.7 as we come into the final sector of this lap, I'm not meaningfully closing in that gap. It's hovering around 1.9 seconds to 2.1. So I've got my work cut out for me here if I'm going to get onto the rear wing of Campo in the second half of this race. I've got to try and find another few tenths in my lap times. We set a new PB there, but we go forward onto lap 7, and the gap, if anything, has extended further, and that's despite the fact on lap 4, lap 5 and lap 6 I'm consistently in the high 121s. So I'm just not able to make an impression yet on Campo. I'm 4 seconds behind Wesley Michel, so Campo has dropped back a couple of seconds from P2. It looks like it's going to be a straight shootout between myself and Campo for the final podium position, but at this stage I'm nowhere near being able to challenge, despite clocking a 121.6 on that lap. But as we go forward to lap 9, so just a few laps left, finally it looks like I'm clawing in that gap. The gap now 1.5 seconds as we come through the very, very fast right-hander and onto the back straight once more, and I've taken a decision in the cockpit. I'm going to spend all of my boost. I can't wait any longer. I've got to try and put the pressure on. I don't think I've got enough to get me to the end of the race, and that might prove fatal in the end, but if I don't use the next lap and a half to close in on Campo, then I've got no chance. And I just have a sense in the cockpit that he's beginning to feel the pressure, as that gap has dropped by around a second in the last couple of laps alone. And look at that, he's come to the inside of the track. He doesn't need to do that. I'm not actually in his slipstream yet, but that just gives me a little sense that psychologically he's beginning to feel the pressure. So I've got to crank that pressure up. So I'm going to keep the boost on now to the end of the race. I probably won't get to the end. In fact, I know now that I won't get to the end, but can I get close enough for that then not to matter, because I'm putting that pressure on Campo and hopefully forcing a mistake. The gap 1.1 seconds as we come through the long right-hander here. Then remember, just a lap and a half left of this race. Very difficult to mount overtakes at this circuit in these cars, so it is going to be about cranking the pressure up and forcing a mistake. That's my best chance as we come through the left-hander again. Oh, and I'm very nearly wide there, so I'm pushing as hard as I can. You can see my delta. I'm on for a 121.5. That will be my quickest lap of the race so far. The gap then 1 second. It's going to duck underneath a second as we come into the final section of this penultimate lap, but I'm just not able to get close enough through this final sector. But look at that, Campo has gone wide. He's missed the apex there of the corner through the right-hander. Is that going to give me a chance as we come on to the start-finish straight for the final time then? And look at that up ahead. He's begun to use his boost, so he's saved enough presumably for the rest of this race. The gap 0.7 seconds, so I am now in his slipstream, but it looks like I might just have ran out of time here, as I'm not going to get close enough to get down his inside. But this gives me a final chance through the final lap of this race to just close in even further. But look at my dash, it's gone red. It means I've not got much boost left at all, in fact just 10 seconds, and presumably Campo is going to have his through to the rest of the race. So it's now going to be about, will Campo crack in these final seconds of the race? I'm now out of boost. I've just got to try and make the most of this here, keep as close as I can to the car ahead. He'll have a big advantage down the back straight. Oh, and I very nearly lose the car. Just a tiny snap of oversteer again coming through that left-hander. But then look up ahead, something disastrous happens to Campo. He's had a technical failure of some kind. He's disconnected from the server momentarily. He has reappeared back on track, but we're up into P3. Can you believe it? On the final lap of this race, it just goes to show you should never give up. I had begun to think that my chances had gone, that I hadn't turned up the pace early enough in the race to be able to get alongside him, but some kind of technical issue is going to relegate Campo out of the podium positions as we come through the final corner for the last time. We cross the start finish line, and I think I've finished P3. There's confirmation of our safety rating and our iRating coming out of the race, but where are the classified results? There they are, and yes indeed, we have come home in P3, and I really feel for Campo in that situation. I'm pretty confident had he not had that issue, he would have held on to the podium position there. It was a great race. I know there wasn't that much side-by-side action, but we were going hammer and tong, setting really quick but close lap times all race long, and in the end, it came down to a bit of luck. This then is our final session in the Super Formula for this iRacing season. It's been a fantastic series over the course of the last 3 months. This race was good, but if anything, the race on screen now was even better. I think this was the best race of the season. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.